what time it is. It is time to review Ultimate Spider-Man issue 4, so let's get straight into this. But before we get to that, if you are new around here, make sure you subscribe if you want to stay up to date with everything Ultimate Spider-Man. We're going to be reviewing every issue of this series on this channel when it releases, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. We're also so close to 30,000 subscribers. I would love if we could hit that goal, so let's try and push for it. But either way, let's get into my three main talking points for this issue. Number one, first and foremost, I think the thing everyone is talking about, Mary Jane Watson. She is absolutely incredible in this issue, and as the title of the video suggests, Mary Jane is fixed. Finally, Jonathan Hickman knows how to write this character, and in comparison to the Mary Jane Watsons that have been written over the last 10 to 20 years, this is definitely a breath of fresh air, and the character is finally back to her best and how she should be written. But how is that so? Well, we'll discuss that later on in the video. My second massive talking point is, of course, the fact that this comic doesn't feature Spider-Man, which I think personally shows the confidence of the writers. And I don't think I've read a Spider-Man comic in a very long time where Spider-Man doesn't actually show up, so this is something we're going to talk about because I think it shows a lot of confidence in the writers and the series as a whole. And the third and final talking point that everyone is going to be mentioning is, come the end of the book, we got the responsibility speech, but we'll touch on that when we get to it. So we kick off this comic at a fancy restaurant. Peter and MJ haven't gone out in a while, and this is because of Peter being Spider-Man, along with the fact that MJ is starting up a new business, which gets delved into a little bit more along in the story. It's been a month since Peter started to get to know Harry Osborn, who is the Green Goblin, who they both meet at the restaurant. This is the first time MJ has got to meet him, and likewise, Harry introduces them both to his wife, Gwen Stacy. It seems a bit awkward at first, but you can really tell that Peter and Harry have come a long way from just being acquaintances to actually being friends. Even though a lot of their conversation revolves around superhero stuff a lot later in the issue, you can tell that they actually have pretty decent chemistry with one another. And I think this is how Hickman is going to do the Peter and Harry relationship in this series. After meeting Gwen, a lot of the conversation when they get sat down revolves around MJ's new career path. The way that her dialogue is presented is that she's very laid back, but isn't afraid to stand her ground. She comes across vulnerable without being a pushover, which I really love about MJ here. We have to remember this is an older version of Mary Jane Watson, and if her past is anything similar to what we are used to as Spider-Man fans, we know that she had an abusive relationship with her father growing up. This then led to her creating this persona, this facade on the outside to cover up how she was really feeling on the inside. And you can tell that Hickman clearly has taken inspiration from this origin story, as it's clear that this is a massive part of the character that still exists within this version of Mary Jane. But likewise, you can also see the growth into her being a more mature and emotionally available person. For example, during first meeting Harry, she mentions that if she works hard enough, sometimes she can forget how terrified she actually is, which isn't something MJ of the past would like to admit. However, when on the topic of business, even if she's questioned or quizzed by Gwen or Harry, which by the way are major business people in this universe, especially Gwen Stacy, she's like a CEO or something, like, it's crazy. MJ still manages to stand her ground and manages to basically stand on her own 2 feet and be strong and confident. It always seems like MJ has a calculated and smart response, which I think shows major character growth and shows a lot about who she is as a person. She's emotionally available without being a pushover, and I love that Hickman writes her this way. The 616 comics, in comparison, fail to do either of these things. They either make her way too incapable of holding her own, which is not what Mary Jane Watson is at all. If you look at prior examples of the character, for example, in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 292, MJ even helps Peter out of a situation with the Spider Slayers, which I think shows a lot about her character. Or on the other end of the spectrum, they make Mary Jane a cold, heartless, and quite frankly stubborn jerk. Like in the recent Zeb Wells comics, it seems like Wells does everything in his power to make the audience dislike MJ for this reason. He splits up with Peter again for a very poor and invalid reason, and then gets mad at him when Peter wants a reasonable explanation. Zeb Wells has also given MJ powers in the recent comics, which I think is the stupidest thing you could do to a character like MJ, who has built a massive part of her character of being someone who doesn't need superpowers to make her strong, and the fact that she is a force to be reckoned with in the first place. Either way, Hickman fixes this problem by giving both traits to the character, but not in full force. There is that balance between MJ that makes her a likable, first and foremost, likable character, whilst also making her emotionally available, and also gives her the strength and confidence to kind of stand on her own, and even back Peter up when he needs help, which I think is amazing. We haven't actually seen much of Mary Jane Watson in this series so far, but issue 4 really delves into her character much more than we did in issues 1, 2, and 3, which personally I was really hoping they would do. As we carry on through the issue, we mainly cut between the four at the restaurant and Uncle Ben, J. Jonah Jameson, who are watching May and Richard. We also learn that they're planning to call their new newspaper company The Paper, in opposed to the Daily Bugle, and this is a subplot which runs throughout the issue as well. However, what's more interesting about both of these stories is that despite the mention of Spider-Man, Spider-Man himself doesn't show up in this issue whatsoever. Now you may be thinking, how the hell did Marvel Editorial let that one happen? Well, I think it's a testament to Jonathan Hickman and the writing team. They clearly believe a lot about these characters enough to have a whole issue that doesn't include the main star character of the whole series. And like I mentioned in the intro of the video, I haven't really seen a Spider-Man comic in a very long time that doesn't actually include Spider-Man, which once again is a testament to Jonathan Hickman, because clearly he believes these characters are strong enough to hold a issue on their own, where they're just sat at a restaurant eating food and talking. I'd even go as far as to say this is up there as one of my favorite issues in the series thus far, alongside issue 3. As the issue comes to a close, Gwen and MJ head to the bathroom, and this is where they get talking about business, and essentially MJ is thinking about becoming the new brand manager for Jonah and Ben's new paper company. And this is where Gwen reveals that she would actually like to invest in that company as well. So all of it is tying together, and all of these characters are kind of converging on each other, and I think this is a very interesting way of doing this. But either way, that isn't the most important thing that happens at the end of this issue, because the most important thing that happens is, in fact, Peter and Harry get talking about superhero stuff. Not only is it about superhero stuff, it leads on to a conversation about great power coming great responsibility. Now, some people will say at first that it's wrong for that to be coming from Harry. However, we've had a few months to get used to the fact that this series is clearly going in a completely different and unseen direction to what we're used to with Spider-Man before. So we'll just have to see how this goes and where this can lead. My theory based on how this issue ends leads down one of two paths. Number one, Peter won't listen to Harry, and I think this will kind of boil over in a dispute between Peter and MJ, because as we know, Peter hasn't actually told MJ at this point in the series that he is Spider-Man yet, so I think this is definitely going to kind of boil over. It's going to have some sort of impact there. Or number two, which I think possibly could be more likely, is Harry may end up dying. I think this could be quite interesting, because that could be down to Peter's naivety with the whole great responsibility speech coming from Harry Osborn. And we know when it comes from Uncle Ben, he ends up dying. Either way, the issue ends with Peter and MJ heading home, and just to put the cherry on top of the cake, at least in terms of what we were discussing earlier about MJ, MJ tells Peter that she doesn't need heroes, all she needs is him, which is really sweet. I mean, how sweet is that? Marvel Editorial are throwing up in their mouths at this. Like, they cannot deal with this at all. But either way, we absolutely love this issue. I really love it. The only thing that I'm kind of disappointed on is the art. I really wish Chichetto could come back and do maybe the first 10 issues of the series, but they've already got a guest artist on in the 4th issue. Why? But either way, it doesn't matter. The issue was really great. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Make sure to subscribe, because we're so close to 30,000 subscribers. I would love if we could get that goal. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care and peace.